Hello, welcome back to Fiat in the Mess. We're so glad you've joined us today. I'm very excited about the episode today. We have Lisa Popcak with us. You are probably familiar with Greg and Lisa Popcak, either from Catholic radio or the many parenting books they've written. And we're excited to have her with us today. She's the author of more than 20 books, along with her husband, Greg. Books on parenting and marriage, mental well-being. She's a co-host of the radio show More to Life that you can find on EWTN and the vice president of CatholicCounselors.com. So welcome, Lisa. We're so happy you're with us.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's so exciting to get to spend this time with the two of you. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Okay, so we are going to just jump in. Lisa is going to tell us about a study that they were invited to be a part of and some of the fruit that came out of that. Then we're going to be talking about some practical habits and ways to create joy and warmth in our homes, create a home our children want to come back to, and first and foremost, create an environment that is conducive to our children keeping their faith, practicing their faith, and embracing it on their own. So, Lisa, why don't you tell us about the study that created this new work you're doing?
Sure. So in 2019, Greg and I hosted a symposium at Notre Dame with the McGrath Institute and our Sunday visitor, where we brought together over 50 theologians, Catholic social thinkers, really powerhouses in the Catholic faith. And the question we studied together was what makes Catholic families different than all of our neighbors? And what
Mm,
can we do to enhance Catholic family life? And most importantly, create families that remain Catholic for generations. And out of that symposium, Greg and I, with Kara, came up with a study that interviewed parents and their adult children in families where all of the adult children, all of the children in the family, had grown to remain Catholic, faithful Catholics in their
mm,
adulthood, and were raising their own children to be Catholic in the faith. And so it took quite a while to find the families that had these multi generational levels of faithfulness, where families successfully raised all of their children to a Catholic adulthood. And out of that study, we studied all of the things that these families did. And we noticed that it came down to all of these families shared 12 particular habits
mm,
that they all agreed fed their faith, made them desirous to stay in the faith and to share their faith with the next generation. So
mm.
that it was amazing. It all boiled down to these 12 habits. And I want to say, just like we have to remember, Christ loved us all perfectly, and a lot of people walk away, right? Everybody from the rich young
Mm,
man to somebody we know in our lives. So we can't force anybody to
right.
accept the faith, live the faith. We all have free will. But this greatly increases the chance that your children will grow up to embrace their Catholic faith in adulthood and raise your grandchildren to be
Mhm,
Catholics. And it also increases the day to day joy and
mm,
peace in your family life as you're living it
mm.
at every age and stage with your kids. So it has a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it came out of a study where actual Catholic families were consulted and
Yes.
not just like an ideology of we think these things matter, but because some of them, and we're going to get to them, but some of them are like, oh, okay, sure, that makes sense. And maybe you could have intuited that. You certainly have already written about it. But to know that it's coming out of actual life experience and that the
Yes.
outcome of these families is the outcome we want. And Haley, we've been talking about this already so much this season. Our goal, we want to get our children to heaven. We want our children to love Jesus and to serve the Lord with joy. And that's really the point of raising these children is we want to raise saints. And so I think our listeners are going to love the practical aspect of, okay, these are families that have done it and it's not just a nice psychological, suggestion. It's, like, tried and true, habits and material. So
Yeah, and interestingly, I think one of the most profound moments in sharing this with people, we were visiting a diocese in Pennsylvania, and we were talking to all of their DREs and, the people who could affect change in the church. And after we presented this, there were two women sitting side by side, right next to each other. And one of them said, "Oh my gosh, now I know how my parents managed to raise 7 kids that all remain
Mhm.
Catholic." And the
Mm,
girl next to her said, "Yeah, and the same information explained to me why I'm the only Catholic in my family, because my parents did the
family.
exact opposite of this." And just
Mm,
to have that profound moment of these folks going, "This makes perfect sense to me," on both ends of the spectrum. They both had large Catholic families,
huh.
and they saw it. It gave them clarity from both ends. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
an interesting study. It's interesting information. It can benefit everybody.
Good, good. Okay, so I think we'll get into them, and I know Lisa and I were joking, we've had a few conversations now, and we can't stop talking, and we just wanna be best friends. So we wanna keep this the normal length. We understand that, you count on it being digestible. So we're gonna go through them. We'll list them in the show notes, and of course, we'll have links to all the resources, particularly, the work that Greg and Lisa are doing now, which we'll talk about toward the end. But, so, okay, Lisa, we were talking before the show that these habits essentially fit into 3 categories, and the
They do.
first of that is relationship. So let's talk
Yes.
about the habits that fit in that relationship piece.
Well, this section is going to be your foundation and the most important thing. And you'll see later on, there's a section that people think if they just skip to it, they'll be fine. But this really sets the stage. If you're thinking
Okay.
about building a campfire, this is the wood. This is you
Mhm.
can't have a campfire without it. The next section is the spark, and the next section is the fire. So the first part is relationships, building those relationships in your family. So I'll just go through it and then I'll break it down a little bit. The
Okay,
first one
perfect.
is scheduling family time first. Now, that doesn't mean it's the first thing all the time. It means before you sign up for things, before you get overcommitted, you say, "Where are we fitting in our family time?" And we can break that down if you'd like. The next one is actually generous affection and affirmation. Then we move on to attending to each other's needs. Big capital letters for each other's. This is not
Mhm.
mom or dad serving everybody all the time. This is teaching the whole family to meet each other's needs, what St. John Paul II called mutual self donation. And yes, it can be
Mhm.
taught. And then discipleship discipline. And this comes from the teaching of St. John Bosco, who had a vision of Our Lady come to him and change his whole way of raising and teaching the street children that he was in charge of. And so it comes from that. And
Mhm.
basically what it boils down to is teaching and practicing instead of telling or punishing. So those are the
Mm.
first section under relationships. Then comes family rituals. That's what everybody kind of just wants to jump to because it's working, playing, talking, and praying together.
Mm.
And that does not mean that you are adding in a whole bunch of stuff. That means in
Mhm.
each of those categories, you're doing what you're doing, but you just start doing it in a way that draws you together doing it. And then I'll move
Mhm.
on to the next section and you can tell me what you want to break down. The
Okay.
next one is reaching out because we
Mhm.
we want to have a solid domestic church, but we know that we're called to bring the faith out into the world. So the first one is actually serving each other at home and really teaching what service is about, loving one another is about. The next is being a godly family in the world. So, how are you interacting and teaching your children to interact with others? And the last one is serving in your community together rather than
Mhm.
allowing it to divide you. Because unfortunately, in the church and in other things in the community, men go to the men's group, women go to the women's group, kids go to the youth
Right.
group, and it actually gets us to spend less time together and
Together.
have more division. So there are ways to do
Mm.
that together.
Mm. Okay. Great. That was such a beautiful summary. So the relationship piece, family time first.
Mhm.
I know, and Haley, I feel like we've probably brought this up already, but this is something our culture has just tried to effectively destroy. Like, there is such a tremendous pressure in the culture to equate value with busyness and to make parents think that if you love your children, they will be signed up for 12 different activities and they will play 12 instruments and they'll get extra tutoring. I mean, it's just this, you're just bombarded with this idea
Yeah.
that to be a good parent, they have to be very scheduled and do all the things. And some of that, I think, is of course keeping up with the Joneses, this kind of, it just keeps snowballing because these people are doing it, so we're going to do it. But I also think it's just a lie of the devil that we've been told that this is what good parenting looks like in this century or whatever. And so, Haley, I would love to hear your perception as a young mom. Like, do you battle that? I know you live in a beautiful community with very like-minded people. And so, for example, I see this with other friends who maybe are not as plugged into a Catholic community, that pressure is that much greater because it is so loud in the world. But Haley, I know your children are too small to be signed up for too many things. Although I know plenty of people who like their 3-year-olds are already playing soccer and t-ball and basketball all at the same time.
Yeah.
So what is your first impulse when you hear these first three, this family first? Well, let's just start with family first with the scheduling thing. What is your kind of current experience with that? Okay.
As a young mom getting started in my parenting, it's really exciting to be receiving these insights as I'm getting started. Sorry, I'm distracted because my son just woke up and toddled out. He's here with me in the dining room.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to come see, baby?
You know what? I'm going to throw this in. The family time is happening right now because he knows you love
Right
him.
now.
He's with you. He feels connected, and you're still getting work done. So I think God woke him up and let us, say, hey, this stuff
Amen.
doesn't have to be as hard as everybody thinks it is.
Right? Yes. There
Amen.
doesn't have to be a
Amen.
division between doing this thing that God has asked you to do and
Right.
also being his mama, which is the most
Mm-hmm.
important thing. So he
Right.
can
But
stay in
Haley,
the
I
whole
do.
episode.
I want to go back to the question that Annie asked you because I know so many moms who have kids your age who are doing exactly what Annie said. It's T-ball at 3 and 4 years. I was at a T-ball
Mm-hmm.
game a few weeks ago and it was all 3 and 4 year olds and the coaches had to go and pick them up because they all, as soon as they were out in the field, as soon as they weren't batting, they didn't know what to do. So they just sat down. It's like, but they're there because they're socialized, because the parents want to see each other. So what is that
Mm-hmm.
like for you and your community? Are you feeling that pressure?
I think just in my fallenness, I do feel that pressure, not because of my community. I am really in a positive, really wonderful community. Um, but yeah, mostly stay-at-home moms, lots of homeschooling, some Montessori schools, lots of co-ops. So I would say the community that I'm in is really encouraging, and we're all kind of on the same page when it comes to spending good quality family time, intentional time with our kids. But I think just as a human, as a mom trying to do my best, I certainly feel those pressures. I was actually at a play date this morning with a friend. It's good timing. This conversation was coming up. She was talking about
Ah.
sending her son to daycare just so he could be socialized because he spends all of his
Mhm.
days at home with mom. And so we were discussing like the benefits of being around other children, but then truly the ultimate good of being home with the mama and with the family, and but just kind of discussing the pros and cons of either sending your child to an occasional daycare or school. Um, and she's sadly feeling a lot of pressures from family to
Right.
send him away so that he can be
Oh,
better socialized, which is so sad. Like ultimately it is up to the mama, to the parents to discern what's best for
Ah.
each child, I think. And I'm sad
amen.
for her that she's
Mhm.
feeling a lot of pressures and kind of trying to be discerning.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I was telling her was first that I think just to lean into her relationship with her spouse to discern that decision for themselves and based on what is good for that particular child. But then also to something I'm striving to do with my kids and just for myself is to learn to be happy at home and to not feel like we constantly have to be doing things outside of the home or to not feel that pressure that there's always something bigger and better outside of our house. Like the little things, the hidden
Mm.
things, this is where the magic is, and I always forget that, but these are the moments that I'm gonna miss, and
Mhm.
I don't wanna miss them. They're so precious, and yeah, I
Mhm.
do so what I'm trying to say is I do feel those pressures.
Me Haley, I think you're absolutely right. There's so many pressures from so many situations. I will honestly say that we have seen a huge
Please
rise
stop.
in putting family last
Please stop.
since
Mm.
COVID ended, since lockdown ended.
Oh, I didn't
Because
even think of that connection, but I
no,
could
because
totally
first
see
of
it.
all, a lot of I love our teachers and our coaches. I'm a former teacher myself. But a lot of teachers of after school things felt this incredible pressure to prove that they were necessary. So they played upon the exhaustion of the parents that were locked down with their kids for so long.
Mhm.
They played upon your kids have been locked down, so now they need to be with other kids and socialized. And the schools that I know in the Pittsburgh area, I know high schoolers who are there from 6:45 in the morning for beginning of the
Right.
day activities till 11 o'clock at night.
It's
And
crazy.
they're in all of these activities, and their parents do not see them. The parents are asleep by the time the kids get home because the parents have to go to work the
Right.
next day. And we have to realize we can't feel connected to our children.
Right.
We can't have a real effect on their behavior, on their value system, or on their faith if they barely know us. They
If
are
they're not
going to
here.
reflect the values of the people they spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And if the only people guiding your children are a bunch of other 16-year-olds, that doesn't bode very well. It's
Doesn't
literally the
go well.
blind leading the blind. So it's the
Right.
idea of making sure when you look at your school year calendar, your summer calendar, when you look at your monthly and weekly calendar, and you should be having family meetings at least once a week. You can do it over dinner. Everybody sit
Right.
down, get out your calendars. Let's figure out what we're doing this week, this month, and at the beginning of each of those big seasons and say, where are we getting time together? Where are we getting at
Mhm.
least 3 meals together? Doesn't have to be dinner,
Mhm.
but at least 3 meals together a week, bare minimum.
Mhm.
When are we getting time to have time to play together, to pray together, to work together, to have family time together? We need that. And
Mhm.
that's what's going to make our family love each other, have more joy, have less
Mhm.
animosity. So you want to schedule that in first. And if you're looking at your yearly calendar and you're saying, well, everybody wants to sign up for something, that's where the hard decisions and discernment come in. Who
Yeah.
gets to do what this year? Then the other
Mhm.
kids get to do this other thing another time, but don't let well, they have to be in 500 sports to get scholarships, or maybe they'll make the big leagues, or we
Right.
need to say what they're made for is to get to heaven, and the
Amen.
people that they're going to know the longest are the people living under this roof, their family. It's
Yes.
not gonna be the people on their team, the people at their school, the people that they go to college with. It's the family that is gonna be
Yeah.
there for the entirety of their lives, and so those are the relationships we wanna make strong and make
Yes.
loving.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When we were starting out, we had no money. Like my
Who
husband was a
did?
teacher. I know. And I know I have a son getting married and he's worried about, not having money. I'm like, it's good. It's going to be great. It's
You
good
grow
for you.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first got married, we didn't have any money, and part of our not being over scheduled was just we couldn't do it. It was like everything
Yeah,
cost something, and but we also had this kind of internal instinct, okay, we need to protect this time. And so all that to say, I've asked my adult children, do you ever feel resentment that you didn't play as many sports or you didn't really start because we didn't really let them play many sports until they were in middle and high school. When it was organized by the school, it was a little easier to the schedule was more predictable.
sure.
And they joke like, no, they've never thought about. And they even said, well, I'm so glad that I wasn't playing on some city league and gone all the time. And just the travel. And one of the things it opens up is the ability to have free time, to be bored, to be able to do something spontaneously,
Yeah. And to
play
be
a game.
creative. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
I've noticed I feel like it went so far to help them in their relationship with one another because they had
Yes.
downtime, and so they
Yes.
learned. Our kids are notorious for making up the silliest games, and we have a part of our family lore now is just, like, all of these really silly games that they've created, because they have time. So
And those are the conversations that when they're, your age now, they're going to be sitting around at Thanksgiving and Christmas and family get togethers talking
yes.
about those memories. And
That,
that's what's
yeah,
connecting them as a
yes,
family. So we need to focus on making those memories, having that time. And that
yeah,
was what all of the families in this study who
had
raised their
done.
kids to a Catholic adulthood, all of them made sure scheduling family time first was the most important thing.
Mm.
Next came generous affection and affirmation.
Yeah, tell us about that because Haley had a good question. Haley, what
Go
was
ahead, Allie. What is
yeah,
it?
Well, I'm curious. I've heard differing opinions on this when it comes to giving your children affection in public and not wanting to push them away or make them embarrassed, maybe when they reach their teenage years. But then on the other hand, just wanting them to know you love them and expressing that publicly and not letting that be a shameful thing, like just kind of setting the tone
Well,
for them of how we express affection.
I definitely didn't say in public. So that's going to be a
Okay.
matter of what if it's in public, that's going to be a matter of what the situation is. You don't want to
Sure.
embarrass
Sure.
your child. But I'm talking about when your kid walks into the room, no matter what age they are, your eyes light up. You stop what you're
mhm,
doing and I'm so glad to see you. How was your day? Or how'd you sleep last night? What's going on with you? They do something, and this is particularly wonderful as Christian families. When you see them doing something that's virtuous and you in any way, that affirmation of that was so courageous of you, or that was so
mhm,
loving of you, or that was so patient of you to deal with your brother or sister that way. It's not
mhm,
random, I mean, it can be because you want them to know that you love them and that God loves them even more than you love them. That's a wonderful thing to be able to tell them. But to be able to really say, I notice you. I
mhm,
notice the virtue you're living. I notice who you are. And when you tell them, you're so caring, you're so thoughtful, you're so whatever the virtue is that they're living out, they inculcate that. And they say,
mhm,
I am a virtuous person who can live this life and do these things and live the way God is calling me to live. So you're really giving them a sense of who they are in Christ, and
mhm,
you're allowing them to see how much you love them and giving them permission for them to love themselves in a rightly ordered way. And then
mhm,
the affection is hugely important. Appropriate affection in a family, and it can be done just in the walls of your home. We have no problem giving affection to our toddlers, but
right,
and especially girl toddlers. As boys get older,
yeah,
we have a tendency to push them away, and that's led to some really unhealthy things. It's one of the reasons a lot of studies say that men fall into inappropriate things online
the internet,
more
mhm,
frequently because they're craving that affection that they didn't get. So
mhm,
when you're
Wow.
showing appropriate affection, your kids wake up in the morning, you give them a big hug. I'm so glad to see you today. I love you so much. Maybe make the sign of the cross on their forehead. Lord, please bless my child today. Let them have a great day and know your love. And you're done. When you're going by them, you tussle their hair, and that's really going to make your teenage sons crazy, but it's fine. It's appropriate way to do it. You give them a hug before they leave. You give them a hug when they come home, before they go to bed. It's natural, it's appropriate, it's normal, but it's not. A lot of families have a tendency to withhold any kind of affection till it's some kind of reward, and that
mm,
feels wrong, and it also disconnects you enough from your own flood of positive connected hormones, so you're more likely to snipe at your children
hmm,
if you're not looking for the positive things to affirm and if you're not getting those hugs and that positive affection together just for a
mhm,
few seconds here and there throughout the day. It actually programs our brains to be better parents and help us to feel more positive about our children and our own ability and skills to be able to parent them well. So that's very important to do. So yeah, the in public thing,
Yeah,
you know,
depends.
we're not making a big thing out of that unless they, they just, won the game. Then
Right.
yes, hug them after that and
Yeah.
congratulate them
Mhm.
for it
Yeah.
and all of that. And tell all their friends. I mean, you will never see people hugging and high-fiving more than when they just won a game, right?
No
I,
kidding.
I know
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know NFL players who are doing that. So
Right.
yeah, we can't feel weird about that. And then the
Yeah.
next one is attending to each other's needs.
Yeah, I really like this. Talk about this because I do think the other cultural phenomenon, I guess you could call, is this idea that as parents and as mothers in particular exist just to serve their every whim and every
Yep.
need, and we can't ask them to do anything. And I mean I've talked to women on retreat with work where. Uh, I'll talk about chores, your kids doing chores and they're like, "Oh, I don't my kids will not do chores." I'm like, "They won't do chores or you're not making them do chores?" Like, I'm sorry, I haven't washed
Yeah.
a dish in 18 years, okay? So, I mean, I will occasionally, but, like, that is a
But they
job
know
that
what
my
they're
children have
doing.
taken, and they're very good at it, and so each other's needs. What are some ways we see this play out?
Well, this is really about teaching mutual self donation. There's not a blessed thing
Mhm.
that your children need to know that you don't have to teach them. They're not going to
Yeah,
suddenly
amen.
grow into being able to do their own laundry. You
Right.
have to teach them how to do these things. So, this works really well within the rituals that we talked about of working, playing, talking, and praying together. So, working together as often as you can. That doesn't mean you cram your family of 12 into the powder room and make them all scrub it together at the same time like a clown car,
We're
okay?
all cleaning the toilet, everybody.
Right. But we have times of the day where, okay, we're taking, 10 minutes to tidy up the family room together before we move on to the next thing. Or we all have to, eat for a meal. So when we're done with our meal, we get up and we clean it up together. Everybody brings their dishes over. Somebody washes, somebody dries, somebody wipes down the counter. But you're in the room together and you're talking and you're laughing. You're carrying on the conversation you started at dinner time. Or maybe you're putting on some music and having a dance party while you're cleaning up the kitchen. And they're learning all the skills. Mom doesn't have to do it all by herself. It's not
Right.
just assigned to one kid on the chore chart, although chore charts are fine. Everybody, you can't cram
Yeah.
everybody into a powder room. But it's the idea of when you do these things together, they're learning skills and they're learning we take care of each other as a family. We love each other. We look for ways to make each other's day easier, more pleasant. And one
Mhm.
of the things that families can do when they've prayed together or at the end of a meal just say to each other, okay, what's one thing we can each do tell us. We're not guessing, we're not mind readers.
Mhm.
What's one thing I can do for you today to make your life easier or more pleasant? And mom and dad get to say that too. I have a
Mhm.
really busy day. I'm recording a ton of podcasts. I need to make sure that, somebody's watching the littler kids or somebody's making sure the table is set for dinner or has turned the laundry from the washer to the dryer or whatever those things are. But we're allowed to say, this is what I need to make my
Mhm.
life easier, more pleasant, and for me to feel loved. And when we have those
Mhm.
conversations and we do these things. We have a lady who's on our radio show, More to Life, every Friday, Rachel Watkins, and she's the developer of the Little Flowers Girls Club.
Oh,
And
sure.
she's got 11 kids. And one of the things that she always did with her 11 kids was that's too much laundry. And they would all fold it together but then they'd put all the sock balls, because they would just, fold their socks into balls, to the side. And when all the laundry was folded and put away, they got to come back and they had sock ball fights, like snowball fights, but with the socks. And it was just their tradition. So they all ended up laughing. They all ended up having a great time, but they had
Uh,
worked together. They had gotten the chore done in a
mhm.
12th of the time because they were all working together.
Sure.
And they made that a ritual of working together, but also playing
Mhm.
together. So being creative, but making sure we're teaching each other how to serve one another at home
Mhm.
first. And that's incredibly important. And then remembering with discipleship discipline, which is the last one under relationships. This comes from St. John Bosco, who was running a school for street kids. And they were truly feral children.
Yeah.
And when he was getting really fed up with them one day, he actually had an appearance of the Blessed Mother. He never calls her that, but the description is dead on. It's the Blessed
Yeah.
Mother. And she basically said, "Stop treating my children as animals. I want you to treat them
Oh.
with dignity and loving kindness."
Mm.
And he changed the whole way his whole school treated these children. And it actually produced a saint. And it's a way to just say, okay, our kids know nothing, absolutely nothing.
Right.
And we teach them how to hold a cup, how to use the bathroom, how to tie their shoes. We also have to teach them how to regulate their emotions, how to do kind things for other people, all the skills. So, what this boils down to is teaching whatever skill they don't have, even if that's how you treat the baby, how you share a
Mhm.
toy, and then practicing. It's not just telling, it's
Mm.
teaching and then practicing and practicing until they get the skill down and it's just part of them.
Mm.
So, and there are a lot of us who watch YouTube videos now to get skills our parents didn't teach us. And
Sure.
sometimes we have to watch that video on, how to change a tire 5, 6, 7 times and watch it while the person is doing it for us. So we're kind of doing it alongside of them. It's the same idea in parenting our
Mm.
kids, and that's discipleship discipline. So those are
Mm.
the first ones under the category of relationship. Family time first, scheduling it first. Generous affection and affirmation, attending to one another's needs, and discipleship discipline, which is teaching and
Mhm.
practicing over and over.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I always think, I mean, we say this, that God loves us enough not to leave us the way we are.
Right.
And so we have, the sacraments, and we have our growing in our relationship with Christ. And so similarly, I said that to my kids all the time when they were little. Like, I love you too much to let you talk to me like that, or
There
I
you
love you too
go.
much to not make you do your chore well the first time. Let's
Right.
try it again.
Right. Try
And
the attitude. Talk
yeah,
to me with, okay, you did better with your tone of voice, but let's do it again
yeah,
without the eye roll. It's just
right, right,
practicing those skills. And, we're the church of the ultimate do overs. Like, we've got the
right. Praise
sacrament
God.
of reconciliation. We go
Right.
to Holy Mother Church, we say, I messed up. And,
I
and
I did it
they say to
again.
us, okay, here's the grace to do it again. Let's try again. Try it this way. And
Yeah.
so by doing it this way for our children, all we're doing is reflecting the wisdom of the church into our
That
family.
is really great. Okay, so you were saying that people really wanna skip to the family ritual piece.
They
Yeah,
do, because
and
it's
do you think because they think of it as, like, doing? Like, it's fun, or feels more practical? Or what do you think the
exactly. It's
Okay.
we're addicted to our checklists, right?
Yeah,
So we
aren't
do our
we?
to-do lists, and if we can check them off, we've done it. We've
Right.
accomplished it. And so when we talk about working, talking, and playing and praying together, people are like, okay, we said our rosary, check. Okay, I said good
Right.
morning. What's your homework today? Check. And it's just you think you've done it. But this
Right.
is really about inculcating these ideas into our family
Sure.
life to build a culture in our family life. So the working we just talked about, playing together. I want to emphasize this. Families are outsourcing play.
Mm,
Mom and dad go to the gym, or they play pickleball, or they play mahjong. They're leaving their kids to do this. Or they play
mm.
basketball, whatever it is. They sign their kids up for play practice and hockey and
Uh,
t-ball and all the things. And then everybody's exhausted, has to do homework, has to get the emails read, no time to play together. And
mm.
that is the one of the biggest reasons why we as moms put our heads on our pillow at night and go, "Oh,
Can't yeah,
we didn't
just
really have any
exhausted.
family time. We're exhausted and we just didn't feel connected." If you
Mm,
want to feel connected to your family, schedule a little bit of playtime every day. And that can be the dance party while you're doing the dishes. This
mhm.
doesn't have to be added on. There's a whole plethora of games that only take 15 minutes to play that
Yeah.
you can, do as a family. And even if you have, a 21-year-old and a 3-year-old and everything in between, we have that kind of spread in our family. And so sometimes the little kids got to pick a game and the big kids just had to enjoy playing, Candyland again. And
Right.
sometimes it was the more adult big kid game, but the little ones would sit on the laps of the older kids and mom and
Yeah.
dad and get to move the pieces or get to roll our dice. We became a team.
Yeah.
So you got to be creative about things like that. Sometimes it's just all of you going for a walk with the dog and
Yeah.
talking together and hanging out, but it's not chores, it's not work, it's not how'd you do on your test. It's just getting out
Right.
and having time together or going out for ice cream together. Scheduling enjoyable, lighthearted time
Yes.
together is imperative. And we
Mm,
do a lot of counseling through CatholicCounselors.com. Very often, we'll have families who have done everything right.
mm,
And then all of a sudden, as their kids hit 16, 17, 18, college age, their kids just go off the rails.
mm,
And what we found out was they're doing all the things together. They're working, they're praying, they're talking together. They never enjoyed time together. They
yeah.
never played together on any kind of a regular basis. So when the
Huh.
kids got with other teenagers and those people taught them how to have fun, they taught them how
Mm,
to have fun in some pretty wrong ways.
yeah.
And so
Mm,
making sure, like all of these skills of working, talking, playing, and praying together, teach our children how Christians interact with all of those things that we do in life.
mm,
So it can be loving, it can be caring, it can be pure, it can be
mm.
fun without it being sinful or verging on sinful. The rest of the world will be glad to teach your children how to have
Right.
fun in some really bad ways. So
Right.
as you incorporate these fun things together, you're teaching them how to relate to that. So when people try to give them the counterfeit of that,
Mm,
then it rubs them up the wrong way and they don't want to do it. They're more able to
mhm.
reject it. And I have to say it's never too late to
Yeah.
do any of these things that we're talking about, but even the play ritual. We were really blessed during the pandemic lockdown. My son-in-law, we were just getting to know his family. And he wanted to make sure we could all spend time together. And thank goodness he's a tech guy. And he
Mm.
figured out how we could each set up our phones and our computer laptops. And we were playing games with his parents who lived out in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Us, we were living in Ohio. Like we would play games together. Some of them were online games, some of them were board games, and we'd have the camera set up. But it
Mm.
created a culture and memories during a time when
Mm,
nobody was supposed to be together. So we can do that
right.
even with our kids who have moved out of the house, our grandkids. We can read them books, over
Mm,
video and Zoom calls. There's just some really
uh,
lovely ways to keep connecting. And the earlier we
yeah.
can start that, the closer and more connected we'll feel as a family. Just like you were
Mhm.
talking about all the things that your kids are going to be talking
Yeah.
about when they're older, because they created all these crazy games together.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
And I love that you said that it's not too late because I think it is so important for our listeners to just understand if you're listening and you've already done most of the parenting, your kids are all teenagers and adults or older, and you're thinking, well, I blew it. No, because
Oh,
God is never outdone in generosity, and He's a God of redemption and healing. And so these principles can be implemented at any time. And
yes, and I talk to people on More to Life who, with no exaggeration, are in their 70s and 80s,
mm,
and they'll call up saying how much they wish they'd known their parents loved them. They wish they had had more time
mm,
with their parents.
mm,
So to reach out to your adult children in a way that's not nagging, and you don't start
mhm.
with, "Why don't you go to church anymore?" But
Yeah.
it's like, "Hey, you know what? I was planning on making this meal you loved when you were a kid, and I was just thinking, why don't we get together and just have dinner
Mhm,
over Zoom on Tuesday night?" And that's something we
mhm,
do with our son and daughter-in-law and grandson who
mm,
live in Florida. And about every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, we schedule a Zoom dinner, and we just have they have dinner at their house, we have dinner at our house, and we're catching up on the day. We get to see all the silly things that are going on. So this can be done. All of these things can be applied at any age or any stage. You're just building that relationship of love and connectedness.
Haley, is there anything that's resonating with you, or just as you're kind of in the season where you're creating traditions and ways, and of course I want to say to you, like, it changes so much, the way we incorporated like play when they were toddlers and the way we did it when they
Mhm.
were teenagers is obviously different, but I
Yeah.
can absolutely say that it's just setting that precedent of like, our family is the most important thing, and this is what God gave us. So,
Mhm.
does anything
Mhm.
resonate with you in a particular way?
Yeah. I feel like as a young mom with toddlers, really all that my daughter just started walking, so I officially have 2 toddlers. And I realized just how unbaby-proofed my house is and all my breakable things on the bottom shelf and um now we have 2 toddlers and but I hearing y'all talk about play and how important that is, um, for the rest of my parenting, for the rest of our family's life and beyond, um, it doesn't end once your children aren't toddlers anymore. I feel like really all that I do all day is play with my children, and I delight in
Sure.
playing with them. But there does come the point where I really need to get some work done, and so I'm trying to find some time to do laundry while they're really wanting me to play with them, and to trying to find that balance of work and play and teaching them constructively. Right now we're gonna work on laundry together, and but they think we're just playing. So how to juggle those things as a young mom with little kids. But it's just so encouraging. I love to play with my kids, but I also wrestle with that frustration of them always wanting to play and me trying to find time to do other things. Um, but one thing we love
First
to
of
do
all,
as
let
a
me give you massive props for delighting in playing with your children.
I know, I was gonna
Because
say the same thing.
there are so many moms, especially now, who think they have
Yeah.
to be in like mom mode all the time. Like if
Right.
I get playful, they won't respect me, is this kind of
Mhm.
weird thing that they've
Mhm,
got going through their heads. But if you're with your children, enjoy your children, delight in your children,
mhm,
have fun with your children, and realize
mhm,
that that connectedness is actually
mhm.
going to get them to be more cooperative with you than less
Yes.
cooperative with you,
Yes.
because they're going to
Mm,
feel loved and connected, and they're going to intuit most of the time. Everybody gets dysregulated, but most of the time they're going to say, I have access to mommy and she's fun and she wants to be with me. So
mhm,
Mhm,
I want to be good for her. Very much
mhm,
Saint Therese of Lisieux
mhm,
said her
mhm,
parents were so loving and so generous to her. She never wanted to do anything to make them disappointed or
mm,
unhappy.
mhm,
So, and
mm.
we got 3 saints in that story. So
yeah,
Right.
really being open to that, and I think too many moms think that they can't, that they only have to be kind of stoic around their kids and then
Mm,
let their
mhm,
kids go play at play group or, library
mhm,
right.
time, but at home they have to rule the roost. So first of all,
mhm,
delight in your kids. And then second of
mhm,
all, you said it just right. Okay, so I'm moving on to doing laundry. You've got 2 toddlers. Oh, this is a sock. Can you find me
Yeah,
another
mhm,
sock? And then as they get
yeah,
mhm,
older, oh, can you find the other blue sock or the sock that looks just like this? And
mhm,
just letting them come alongside of you, maybe putting on an audiobook for them that they would love, Frog
mhm,
or Toad or something like that. And
yeah,
letting them, we all listen to that together, or you're listening to like lovely music. But there are certainly things that you have to do alone that,
right,
maybe, you don't want them right on top of you when you're stirring at the stove and the flame is on. So
right.
you have them close, but not involved. But certainly if you're baking cookies, they can be stirring the cookies. I had a big bowl
mhm,
that I actually just put a towel on the floor. And the 3 of us, like when my oldest kids were little, would sit and just stir that cookie dough instead of sticking it in the KitchenAid, because they were like, this is magic. Look, it's turning into,
Right.
and they could eat the chocolate chips. So just thinking, where can I bring them alongside of the work things I
mhm,
have to do that are safe? in a way that's enjoyable, but I'm still
Yeah.
getting things done and they're learning at the same
Yeah.
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that you're right on. And the fact that you take delight in that, do not let
Yeah. That's really
anybody
beautiful.
discourage you. And that, because that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
so important. And that's part of
Yeah.
what gives
Yeah.
you your heart for your ministry as a mom. And that's a beautiful thing. And know that our listeners who are saying, I don't know how to do that. I'm
No.
not a playful person. It makes me nervous. My mom never did
Mhm.
that and I'll feel like I'm betraying her if I do that. All the
Mm,
things that go through our head. It's a skill that can be learned.
yeah.
Just a little
Mhm.
bit every day and let that kind of take down those walls because,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, God, Jesus said, let the little children come unto me. And
Um,
he didn't mean so
Mhm.
I could yell at them. He meant so I can
yeah.
be
Or
with
just
them and love
tell them
them
what
and
to do.
let them climb all over me.
Ah.
So, it's really an imitation of Christ that we allow ourselves to
Yes.
to break down those walls. And then I'm gonna
Mhm.
just move that one step away. Remember to be praying, for your motherhood
Mm,
alone.
Mhm.
But also, this is another one in the work, talk, play, and pray.
pray.
And I think that as moms, when our kids are little, we get very into, well, I need to make sure they know the right. I have to teach them how to make the sign of the cross correctly.
Yeah.
A, you want them to know it, but B, you get really worried that everybody at church is looking at them, and if they're getting it wrong, they're going to judge you. So let's
Right.
call it out. Or my mother-in-law is going to think I'm not teaching him right, or whatever those things are.
Mhm.
Formal prayers are important, but it's also really, really important to teach our children how to see God in their day and just talk to Him.
Mhm.
So, praying together as a family can be longer times of prayer, but please do not try to do an entire rosary with a 2-year-old or a bunch of toddlers. Don't do a decade. Do just,
No.
some of the prayers of that. So while all the formal prayers are important and try to do them, in those age appropriate stages, work your way up to long, long stuff. I promise your kids will learn it as
Right.
long as you kind of do it consistently over their lifetime. But it's even more important to help them learn how to see God in their lives and talk to Him as their best friend. So
Mm,
you say things throughout the day. Like I reverted back to the Catholic Church when I was 15 years old.
okay.
And I remember things throughout my life that people did that kind of made me go, "Oh, wait. There's this God and he actually cares about us." One day a friend of mine, very Catholic family, her mom was picked us up from school and we were driving back to her house for, a after school get together. And it was fall, so the sun set really early. And the mom just in the front of the van said, "Oh, Lord, thank you for that sunset. You are such an
Mm,
artist. You love us so much to give us something so
mm,
beautiful." And my head just kind of, what? That's
yeah.
amazing. I never heard anybody talk about God like that before. So pointing
Hmm.
out little things throughout the day,
Mhm.
where did you see God in your day? Where, a lot of people do something called thorns and roses. So, like during your meal or
Mhm.
on the way home from school in the car, what's the best thing of the day and what was the hardest thing of the day? So, the
Yeah.
roses are those blessings, and the thorns are those things we need to pray for. And it could
Yeah.
be my best friend had this really hard time or something
Mm,
bad happened. So, you're getting to that deeper talk ritual of being able to say, "Oh, thank you, God, that you gave us that blessing. Thank you that you showed up
mm,
for us in that way. Thank you for loving us so much." And those thorns where you're like, "Please, Lord, help my child with this situation," or "Please help their
mhm,
friend with this grief or this situation so that they can know your love." It's these little conversations throughout the day.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
those holding them close when they're little and they have a boo-boo and you're cuddling them and you kiss the boo-boo and you're like, "Lord, please to heal this to my child. Please help them feel
Yeah.
better." You're
Yeah.
bringing the Lord into every moment of your day in just genuine, real ways where you're treating God like another member of your family who's always there because He is. He
Right.
is a family
Hmm.
member who's always there and always working for our good. So helping them learn to pray from their heart that way
Mhm.
is vital to their faith
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, and I recognize that I
Hmm.
grew up as a Protestant missionary in a very evangelical setting, and
Yeah.
so I'm very comfortable with just spontaneous prayer. My husband, who grew up as a cradle Catholic, his parents are not at all charismatic in any way, and he is not comfortable with it. Like, he didn't learn. It isn't that you learn. As I mean, it's a skill in some ways, in the
Yes.
sense that you get better at it. And so anyway, I spontaneously pray for my kids all the time in the car, at dinner. Like, they're like, okay, here goes mom, and so they're familiar with it, but they're not as comfortable. And so I just always tell them. So if listeners are hearing and thinking like, I don't do spontaneous prayer, you know, you can learn, you can get better and more comfortable. What I've learned is the most important thing is to tell my children, just talk to Jesus.
Yes.
You can do it when you're alone. You don't have to do it in front of me. We might finish a rosary or a decade and I'll give them the opportunity to pray. Most of them don't want to. And I always say, that's okay, but do it when you're alone, before you go to bed
Yeah.
or or anytime. Just keep
Or
talking to
give
Jesus.
them a blank notebook and say, this is your prayer journal now.
Yeah,
Write down
write it
everything you want to
down.
say to God. Write
Mhm.
down everything you're
Yeah.
thankful for, anything you're scared of, anything you're mad at him for, and ask him to heal
Yes.
it. Whatever those
Yeah.
things are. And just those simple things like the thorns and roses throughout the day. So you're not making it this huge, big, uncomfortable prayer. I have to say, if you marry somebody from a different culture, you're
Yeah.
going to learn how to cook some of the foods that they love. You're going to
Right.
learn to speak at least some of the language that they spoke in, whatever family they grew up in, because you love them.
Yeah.
So learning to love God together,
Mhm.
talking to him and bringing him into your family life in a just very natural, normal way
Right.
is vital to passing on the faith, but also for being close and getting to know each other's hearts and being there
Right.
for one another for a lifetime. And it can be little things. My godmother, who was the woman responsible for bringing me back into the church, being with her family changed my whole life. And I remember one
Mm.
night she was cooking shepherd's pie, and I was sitting there kind of just talking to her and working on my homework. And all of a sudden she said, "Blessed Mother, please pray for me that I may make this dinner as good for my family as you would make for your son." And I was like,
Oh.
"That's amazing." And I've always done that. My
Mhm.
oldest daughter actually made a dish for me, like engraved dish that has that prayer on it that's in my kitchen because they all know I did it. And if something
Mm.
goes wrong with a recipe, even the kids who are like far away now will go, "Mom, did you forget to ask the Blessed Mother to make that meal as good as she would make it for us? Did you forget?" And every time I have forgotten. I
You
got sidetracked.
did? Oh my
Every
gosh, that's
time. They're
funny.
always
That's
right.
funny.
Wow.
So it's those
That's pretty
little
funny.
prayers, little
Yeah.
things that we do
Mhm.
that's really important, and
Yeah.
that working, talking, playing, and praying thing that we need to do
Awesome.
as rituals in our family.
Beautiful. Okay, let's try to wrap up with the reaching out piece. And I love this because I do think that it is so important that we're meant to live in the world and not of the world, and we can't just live in a bubble and never participate in the culture in any way. And so
Right.
how is the Lord calling us as a domestic church to what are some of those steps? So how do we
Absolutely.
live that out in the world?
Right. We're in a domestic church, not necessarily in a cloister.
Yes. Yes.
So I will say, first of all, your first ministry is to the family that God
Mm,
has given you, your spouse and the sacrament that you're living,
yeah.
and the fruit of that, which is your children. So when your children are very, very small, don't be thinking you have to run around and like volunteer at everything
Yes.
that's going on at church. That's for
Right.
the older women who are the tightest two women who can step in, take care of those things, live those virtues, and display those to people. Your first ministry is to the people under your roof. That is a sacrament that you are living. So live it and don't feel guilty about the stage that
Amen.
you're in. Those things will come. But it starts with serving each other at home. And we talked a lot about, learning how to serve together, serve each other's needs. And serving each other at home teaches our children what real loving service is, sets the example for them, and makes them realize that it is how you treat everyone including the people closest to you. We often think, oh, I can be myself at home. And what we mean is our
Mm.
rottenest, worst selves.
Yeah.
No, what it means
Yeah.
is I'm serving and loving at home and being my best self. And so we teach that first. And then it's not, oh, well, everybody speaks to each other. Even mom and dad speak to me so unkindly at home. But as soon as I'm out
Mhm.
at the restaurant or at the supermarket, they're remember to say please and thank you. Remember to
Mhm.
say yes, yes, Mrs. Whatever. No, you're doing that at home. You're saying, no, thank you. That's not for you to play with. That's yes, please go and do this. Not just go get me the can of peas from the basement. It's please go down and get that so we can make dinner together. It's using
Right.
that service at home, that's setting it up so that they can do the next thing, which is just being godly families in the world. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean stand on a street corner and screaming at people about salvation. What it means is you treat people with respect. You look them in the eye. You're kind to the service
Mm.
people in your lives. You hold the door open for people.
Yeah.
You're just kind and respectful to people. And yes, that can mean you're at a restaurant and you actually pray before your meal, and you don't have to do it at the top of your lungs, but somebody might notice that you're bowing your head and you're praying, and that's a witness in the world. So being godly, kind, loving, virtuous people as you go about your life as a family when you're
Mhm.
out and about in the world is a tremendous witness. And the last one is serving in the community together. And this comes as your
Together.
kids get older and you're
Sure.
finding things to do that are safe to do together. So you're not bringing tiny children into a homeless shelter and
Right.
not being able to keep your eyes on them or putting them in a place where they might be subjected to something inappropriate.
Right.
But you are finding things that you can do, maybe cleaning your church together, serving in some way on a committee that is for whole families, in service, and you're doing that together. Something as simple as when your kids get older, and have made, at least their first sacraments of initiation, and especially once they've made confirmation, volunteering together to serve at the
Mhm.
same mass, calling the scheduler and saying, hey, we're the 10 o'clock on Sunday people.
Yeah.
So can you schedule our kids to be altar servers and me to be a reader? Because my husband sings at that mass. So we just all want to do our thing at the same mass. And it can look
Yeah.
like, hey, this mass brought to you by the Smith family.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because what it says is to people who are there, oh, wait a minute. Like they all love God. They're all here. We can do
Mhm.
that. That's okay. So it's
Yeah.
that, certainly there are times and stages where we do want the support of a men's group or a women's group. The kids do want to be in youth group, but we have to go back to that. Are we scheduling family time first? Serving together is one of those ways of doing that.
Mhm.
So we're not dad's out on Tuesday night for men group, mom's out on
Right.
Wednesday night for women's group. The kids are out on Thursday night for youth group, and then we haven't seen each other for 3 nights in a row.
Mhm.
So it's balancing these 12 habits that all of these families who raise their kids to a faithful adulthood, and
Mm.
all of these people said what it boiled down to was their faith was the source of the warmth in their
Mm.
home. They didn't just have a
Mhm.
faithful home. They didn't just have a warm, loving home. The faith was the source of the warmth. So when they went through
Mhm.
hard times, it drew them closer together and closer to
Mhm.
God. They prayed together. They worked together to get through it. They supported each other emotionally. When they were having a great time, they knew that those blessings were coming from God. They celebrated that together. They
Yeah.
celebrated each other. And they had that warmth. They had people come into their home to share that warmth with, and they treated each other with
Mhm.
love and respect and kindness.
Mhm.
So and they knew, all the kids knew that it was their faith that inspired that.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
when you make the faith the source of the warmth in your home, when you're practicing these 12 habits on a daily basis, and again, it can flow through your life. It's not an add-on. I'm not asking you to add, another 12 hours to your day, an hour for each habit. But when you do this with a mind towards, we want to love each other and love God in our family life, and this is the
Yeah.
framework to do that, you enjoy your
Yeah.
family life. You end up loving each other. Your kids correct more easily. Not
Mm,
perfectly. Everybody's going to have to go through some of
sure.
those tougher times. And then you share the faith for generations
Mhm,
when you do
mhm.
this. And that's a wonderful thing to know
Yeah,
that, you're celebrating those feast days or those sacraments or just life together because
yeah,
you're all in it together. And that's
yeah,
such a beautiful thing to be able to do. But again, never too late to start. Even if all your
yeah,
kids are
amen.
grown, you've got
Yeah.
grandkids, you can rebuild those relationships.
And I think it's also
Mhm.
so important. I mean, I already experienced this with, I have 4 teenagers left at home and well, no, I guess well, yeah, because now I have an 18-year, but I have 4 adult kids and 3 teenagers. And already I apologize for the things that I didn't quite get right or the things that, of course we've grown into our parenthood, my husband and
Right.
I. And my older kids, especially our oldest, who there was space between her and the next one, and they're as she's raising her children, and I'll just, very easily. I mean, I just have noticed it's so helpful for them and for me to just go, I got that wrong. I wish I'd done that a little differently. You've probably noticed I don't do that with your younger siblings, and so thank you for loving me and forgiving me through that. And aren't we glad that God redeems all things and He's so good to us because, we don't get it right every time. So particularly for people listening who are thinking, I blew it. No, God is so redemptive and good and kind and gentle with
Yeah.
us that what he really delights in is us. And then we can just portray that to our children that and I say this to my kids all the time, God really delights in you. He delights in you. He delights over you as singing. I just want to be sure you know that. Not guilt, not shame. He delights over you as singing. When you start to think that is not the God who's loving you, you need to ask the Holy Spirit to make that right in your mind and in your heart because that's
Yes.
who God is. And in the
Yes.
same way, like Haley, to hear you say, you delight in playing with them. That is Jesus. That's who he is. And like that impulse that you have is so directly from the Lord. That's the thing that gives them warmth and joy and strength and will make them want to come home.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And as you're saying, I mean, like, God delights in our children. Well, when we delight in our children with that affirmation and affection, when our
Yeah.
eyes light up when we're around them, I mean, not 24 hours a day, sometimes they're
Yeah.
obnoxious. We all can be
Right.
obnoxious. But when they know that you can light up when they're around, then when you tell them God loves them,
They
they've
believe it.
seen the face of God on your face being that
Mhm.
way for them.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to know that their parents love them. So
Yeah.
if if you are way into your senior years and your kids are already in their middle stage of adulthood, they want to hear, hey, I wish I had known then
Huh.
what I know now. And God's really worked healing in my life.
Mm.
And I pray that you can forgive me. I ask you to forgive me. And I hope that we can rebuild our relationship in some way because I really do want to show you that I love you
Yeah.
and that,
Mhm.
if I had known better, I would have done better.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want to do better by you now.
Yeah.
Most kids, I mean, they might take a little while to trust it.
Sure.
It's if there was really dysfunction there, it's okay to say, and if you want to go to counseling together, we can do
Amen.
that. Even, now, I mean, CatholicCounselors.com is all
Yeah.
telecounseling. So you can be in two different places. If it will take
Mm.
something like that to bring real healing, be humble
Mhm.
enough to suggest it and let them, they might take a while to warm up to it and come back later on and say, yeah, I do think I need that because we need to
Yeah.
rebuild that trust. But God loves you and he loves your kids
Mm.
and he wants to bring that healing. So don't
Yeah.
be afraid to step out and in faith and try to rebuild those relationships and use some of the techniques here that we're
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about.
That's perfect. Well, actually, that leads us. I know we need to wrap up, but I would love, Lisa, if you could just briefly tell people some of the resources that you
Sure.
and Greg have worked on. And we will be sure to put all this information in the show notes. But what is it? Tell us about the app.
Absolutely. All right. So these 12 habits and so much support can be found at the Catholic Home app. It's spelled HOM because it stands for Households on Mission. And
Mhm.
all of the habits are there. We have monthly downloadables that are simple, easy. You put them out for your kids, everything from games to different things that you can do together to things about the saints or the liturgical calendar. We have a monthly calendar that gives you something easy, easy, easy to do. I am not the mom who can make like 15 desserts for, everything is in liturgical colors and it celebrates the feast day. If you are that mom, I hold nothing against
God
you. I
bless you.
wish I was. I need this thing that I can do in like 15 seconds. And those kinds of things are there. But the biggest thing about the Catholic Home app is that it is having the teachings of the Catholic Church and answers for exactly what you're going through in your back pocket. You have a situation, the 3-year-old is not being kind to their sibling. They won't regulate. They're losing their mind. The teenager is, always on their screen and never paying attention to
Mhm.
you or anything that's going on. You can just put your question in the question and answer section, and you will get an answer that day for your particular
Awesome.
problem from Greg, I, or one of our pastoral counselors are there to just help you. You never have
Mhm.
to parent alone again. So that's
Awesome.
there for you. That's the Catholic HOM app, and you can find that just in your app store.
Hmm.
We have podcasts on there. We have a Beatitudes podcast, My Momfidence podcast, our Catholic Home podcast. So a wealth of resources to help you
Yeah.
be the family and the parent you want to be. And then we are the heads of CatholicCounselors.com, which
Mhm.
is a Catholic pastoral telephone counseling service. And
Awesome.
when people need a little bit more healing, a little bit more help, they can call there or fill out our form online at CatholicCounselors.com. You'll just see
Okay.
find a pastoral counselor button, and you will be matched with somebody and you will get faithful Catholic therapy through this situation, counseling through this situation that will help you heal,
Awesome.
help your family heal. So we do that. And then every single day, Monday through
Yeah,
Friday,
Monday through
you can
Friday.
listen to us on More to Life at 10 a.m. Eastern. And that's on the EWTN radio network. So if you go to EWTN.com, you'll see their radio section. You can listen live. And they also have all of our shows listed in their podcast section. And if you're blessed
Okay.
enough to have a local Catholic radio station, and we're
Yeah.
on there and they're in the network, same thing. We're produced by Ave Maria Radio,
Mhm.
Guadalupe Radio. They all have our podcasts on there and they have our show live every day, Monday through Friday,
Monday
10
through
a.m. Eastern.
Friday.
And you can call in with your questions there live every single day.
Awesome.
So
Great.
lots of resources. You
Hmm.
do not
So
have to
many.
go it alone.
Amen. And you're doing so many things, and I'm so grateful that you made time for us. I
Oh, I
really,
wouldn't have
really, I
missed it. You
am. I
guys are
just think it's
great.
so
Thank
great.
you. And thank you for your
Yes,
ministry. You're doing such
absolutely.
beautiful things.
Well, we're so happy to have you on, and I hope we'll have you again.
I
So
would love
thank you
that.
so much for joining.
It's just
All
too
right,
much fun to be with
everyone.
you to not
I
do it
know it's
again.
so fun. Well, thank you all so much for joining us again, and we'll be with you in a couple weeks. In the meantime, keep giving God your fiat in the mess. Thank you so much.